All right, update on today, and then it's going to be mostly Q&A with a lead-in to let you know how to submit questions for future Q's and A's. First of all, today was the triple stud event. It is 1:24 p.m. I'm already back, so I'm on the 11 a.m. shift, already back here. The stud event, I think it only needed 77 people to meet the guarantee, $40,000 guarantee. Didn't look when I left how many people were there, but it got a fair amount of people. It just had a lot of dealers scheduled for some reason. So I dealt one down. Funny, at that first table, I reach for the chair to pull it back a little to sit down, the dealer chair, and there's like a staple or something like sticking out of the back of the chair. Cut my thumb. I was bleeding, thanks to the dealer who sat down and got the chips ready while I like got it cleaned up with sanitizer and found a Band-Aid somewhere. Same dealer who told me to put clear tape over my ID card so it would clock in because it didn't work on the first day. That dealer is very helpful. So got set up. Dealing, for one, it was very annoying having like no friction on my thumb because that's where the Band-Aid was to get cards off the top of the deck, but I managed. Also, in seat 6, they were eight-handed in the triple stud event, Raz, stud, and stud 8. And if you're wondering, in horse, why is the E stud 8? Spell out the number 8, and it starts with an E, and that's the E. H Hold'em, O Omaha 8, R Raz, S stud 8, E S stud, E stud 8. So it's the RSE of horse, Raz, just a low ball game, stud, just high, and stud 8, split pot game. So those 3 games were going. In seat 6 of this 8-handed table was Donkfish Poker. Definitely seen his videos when I'm scrolling through YouTube. Didn't recognize him like face to face, but that was cool that he was at the table. He said the first few years of his channel was just PLO, but recently it's like everything except Hold'em. So if you're into some non-Hold'em games, seems like Nemi on occasion plays PLO. I'm trying to think of channels that feature things besides Hold'em. That's rare, isn't it? Just trying to think off the top of my head right now. I remember Nemi a few times playing PLO, and I can't think of a time Jamin played anything but Hold'em. I've never done it. Not that I really talk about the hands. I'm trying to think really fast. I can't. Vibes a couple times. Played PLO also. I mean, Joe Ingram is known for it. He doesn't have that type of channel of like, you know, on the felt type of stuff. But if you're interested in games that are not Hold'em, check out Donkfish Poker. So got through that down and then went on break. And then we had so many dealers, I wound up going on back-to-back breaks. And then they sent me home, but I can go back in for the 4 p.m. shift. There's a 4 p.m. No Limit Hold'em tournament and a 6 p.m. No Limit Hold'em tournament, so I'll get some more hours, final day of the week, trying to get as many hours as I can. So that's the update. Now I want to tell you how to submit questions that I'll answer throughout the summer. Go to my homepage on YouTube, go to the community tab, and scroll down. And the top one, the most recent poll question, is about submitting dealing Q&As, dealing questions that I will answer. And the multiple choice is just whatever. Just leave a comment with your question. No guarantee I get to everyone, but I imagine I'll get to most of them. So I thought of this because in the video for me in real time that went up today, few people asked some interesting questions, and I thought I should do a Q&A about dealing. So I'm going to answer 3 questions that I got in the comments today, June 6th. But ask all the questions you want, and I will try to get to all of them little by little throughout the summer. So first question from Chris: since dealing, let's make some better space here. Since dealing, do you have a different perspective on playing? Don't know exactly how he meant it. I think he could mean one of 2 things. So the first way I think he could mean it is like, do I feel that my play is improving because I'm dealing, which I've heard has helped some people. When you deal, you know, see a lot of hands and you're not thinking about your hand, your mind's like a little more free to think about like everything else, and it helps. If that's the case, from that perspective, I would say like no change. For one, tournaments, which I've been dealing mostly, it's just different than cash game. There was actually a stretch in 2014, I was watching a lot of tournaments and trying to like convert like tournament play I was seeing into like cash game practices, and it wasn't really working. They're different things. I've dealt a little cash. For one, not much no limit hold'em, more than half limit and Omaha 8, and when I'm dealing there's just so many things to do. I'm getting the cards out there. I'm not really paying attention much to what the board is until the hand is on the river. And like I drop the deck and I've probably put the rake over the rake chute and the promo money over the promo, and I have like a second to like sit back and actually look at the board. And it's really not much time I even have to pay attention to the board. Once people show down, then I'm actually like looking at the board. I need to read their hands and say who wins. But I don't really have that time to really be like thinking about everyone's action and like the board texture and like what they could be holding and like trying to guess what they have. More so when I'm playing, I'm like paying attention to the people in the hand and trying to guess what they have in case they show down, but not so much dealing. The second way I think Chris could mean that question is pretty much the next question from Lynch. Here's the question. Probably too early to tell, but what's your feeling on turning this into a career? I'd imagine once you work your way up to the high stakes, you can make some serious coin. So that's the other way I think Chris could have meant it, like, do I want to deal even beyond the summer, which more people than Chris and Lynch have asked. I really don't want the schedule. I've known for a very long time, dealers make more than I make playing 1-3 than most people. Almost everyone makes playing 1-3. Actually, if someone played 1-3 for a large sample and said they made more than dealers, I would be very suspicious. But it's the schedule. I don't want to be like on a schedule like 2-3 days a week and have that all year. For one, I can't take like trips that I like. I can't go to Arizona, can't go to California when I feel like it. It might be tough to go fly somewhere just for like a baseball game. Like a lot of things need to be like syncing for me to make those one-day trips that I made last year for the baseball games. The flight time needs to make sense. The flight price needs to make sense. The home team needs to be in the home city. The time of the game needs to make sense with the flight times. Like, it's not just because, you know, say I'm like working 2 days a week after the series for a poker room. It's not like, oh, you have 5 days off every week. You could still make those one-day trips for baseball games. I don't know. That would be like an extra added thing that would make it more difficult. Like, you saw those trips happen. They didn't like take 3 minutes of planning. It took like a lot more than that. So I couldn't do things like that. Also, as it is, the one thing I don't love about my lifestyle is changing rooms. The actual like carrying things like to my car and carrying things through casinos to like the lobby and up to my room, that's not a huge deal. It's the fact that I actually have to leave the rooms. So say for example I check into Harrah's at like on Sunday afternoon. I'm there for 5 days. I don't need to check out till Friday morning. If I play like all night that first day, Sunday overnight, and then I'm back in my room going to sleep at Monday at like 7 a.m., that's not that great of a scenario, because I know at some point I'm going to need to wake up at like 9 or 10 on Friday to leave the room. So that means at some point I need to wake up on almost no sleep. I could do it like right away and have like a very rough Monday on no sleep, but like reset my schedule, or I could wait till like the last day, like Thursday or Friday, and whatever. At some point I need to wake up on no sleep if that happens. I'm not in love with that, and dealing a couple days a week would just add that. That would be a second reason why, like, changing rooms already results in that. Like, even days before I check out of a room, I'm kind of like planning my like sleep and awake schedule in order to like change rooms. Dealing would be a second thing resulting in that same aspect of the lifestyle I don't like. Like, oh, I just played all night. Well, I gotta be dealing in 2 days at like 11 a.m. Well, I mean, either tonight, right now, or tomorrow, I need to only sleep for like 2 hours to reset my schedule. So there would be the dealing and there would be the changing rooms, and that would just be a lot. So I don't plan on doing it like part-time, but I would definitely be up for another series, not just in the summer. Next summer might be 2 positions. Orleans has a winter series. Pretty sure MGM last year had a winter series. And there is the circuit stop at Bally's, depending on the exact dates, because it's right around March Madness, which is my absolute favorite weekend to play poker in Vegas. So I wouldn't, you know, March Madness, that first weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If the circuit started on like Monday, I would strongly consider doing that. If it overlapped with the March Madness weekend, no, I'd rather play. And the WPT comes to town whenever it does. Last year, it was late November, so it was the same time as the Orleans Winter Series and the MGM Winter Series. So, I mean, if I wanted to deal something in the winter, it would be just pick one of those 3. But if they're at slightly different times, you know, maybe 2 out of the 3 or something. So I'd be up for another series, you know, in the summer, like 6-7 weeks nonstop of dealing, and maybe at another time in the year when the circuit's in town, when a winter series is going on, like 4 weeks nonstop dealing. I'd be up for that, but I don't want to be on a schedule every week throughout the year. A third question from Rudy is, what are acceptable or expected tips in cash games if I win a $70 pot, a $200 pot, a $1,000 pot? And all right, I mean, acceptable is subjective. There are people who never tip, which I haven't experienced at Orleans, but I know from playing, they're just people who absolutely never tip in their lives. That is annoying, must be annoying as a dealer, but I mean, you can't like do anything different. It doesn't make sense to do anything different. There was a time in Borgata in summer 2019, I guess like the first 2 hands of this woman's down, she didn't get as much in tips as she thought, and she just started dealing in like the most severe slow motion I've ever seen a dealer deal. And I said, why are you dealing in slow motion all of a sudden? And she just kept doing it. All right, say 2 people of the 9 at the table are never going to tip under any circumstance. So what? 7 other people at the table still are. When you start dealing in slow motion, now I wasn't tipping her under any circumstance, so now she's down to 6. If other people realize this and decide like me not to tip her because she's not giving us a good game, then down to 5, down to 4. Like, even if like 2-3 people at the table will never tip as long as they live, there's still no reason to do anything different while you're dealing. The hand's over, get the next hand out as quickly as you could. So if people never tip, or some people are just like really losing all day and they win like 1 hand out of 20 and they don't tip that one, that's fine. Acceptable, that word is subjective. I know not everyone's going to give tips at all. Not everyone is going to give like tips that are in the same like frequency and amount as what is common. So acceptable, I think I've covered that word. The other word was expected. Expected, I think I could give a better answer. Like if you said, all right, someone's playing 1-3 no limit and won a $70 pot, what's your guess on what the tip would be? I would say the most common tip would be $1 in that scenario. If you said, and I'm looking at the question here on my computer, someone's playing 1-3 no limit and won a $200 pot, what's your guess at what the tip would be? I would say $1 and $2 would be the 2 most common amounts given. Occasionally 0, and I've seen plenty often more than that. And for a $1,000 pot, what would you guess that someone tips? I would say most common is that I see these days is 3, 4, and 5. But if someone won a $1,000 pot and tipped 0, I would get the next hand out as quickly as I did all the other hands. If someone won a $1,000 pot and tipped 1, I would get the next hand out as quickly as I got all the other hands out. So those 3 questions have been answered, and everyone who wants to, go to the community tab and go to the most recent poll and leave a question. And I guess like 4 or 5 questions per video throughout the summer until all the questions are answered. See everyone tomorrow, and I got to get back into work in about 2 hours. And remember, rice is a spoon food.